All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. Welcome, first of all, to Clay Talk, and thank you so much for joining me. Before I get started, I would absolutely love if everybody could share the link to this Facebook Live so we can get as many people watching as possible and learning about this awesome clay. You are our greatest form of advertising and we greatly appreciate it. So just go ahead and take a minute and just share that link for me on your page, on if you have any business pages that might be interested or any groups that you think that would be interested. It would be great if you could just share the link right now. We can get Creative Paperclay online. I'm sure a lot of local craft stores sell it as well, but you can buy it online at paperclay.com. Michael's also carries the clay, as does Joann's, Amazon, and Dick Blick, and I do believe Hobby Lobby carries it also. And today I want to mention that we will be having a giveaway. The giveaway will be of a pack of our Delight clay. This is a wonderful clay. To win, you have to say, I want to win during the live show. It has to be during the live show. Let me just talk a bit about paper clay before we get started to see what you'll be, so you can see what you'll be getting. This is the Delight clay. This is the open pack. I'm going to show you how nice and soft it is to work with. It's a nice, almost like a marshmallow type of texture. It's light, it's so easy on the hands. It's great for both adults and children actually. It's very easy for little ones to work with because it really is the texture of a marshmallow. Just like the Creative Paperclay, we keep it in an airtight container so it doesn't dry out. And it can be used for a variety of things. It can be used in molds, it can be used for freeform sculptures. Here is my latest design team post, and we'll share the link with you shortly for this. It's on our blog. And I want to show you this because I used Delight clay and a lot in this piece. The corals right here, all of these corals, the small one, the grass, the starfish, the shells, all of them are made with the Delight clay. So we've shared the link for you below, so you can definitely have a look at that tutorial. I have a video tutorial how to make the corals using the Delight clay, and also a tutorial on the blog to use molds to make these shells. So that's what you'll be getting today, a pack of Delight clay. If you're the lucky winner, remember you have to say I want to win and you must be live. Remember to share the link for me please for this Clay Talk Live. It would be very helpful getting the word out there. As I said before, you are our greatest form of advertising. Alright, let me just move this out of the way so we can get started. Today we are going to be using Creative Paperclay, and we are going to be making this wonderful, cute, whimsical owl sculpture. It's a very simple sculpture to make, and I'm going to guide you through building the armature and applying the clay, and then I'll show you how I painted it. So the first thing we're going to need is to make our armature. Here we're going to use a toilet roll middle. And to keep it standing upright, to weight it down, I just use a little tiny bag with some cat litter in it. You can use rice, you can use beans, a little sand, a little stone, whatever you have handy. I just have an awful lot of cats. And then if there's still space in it, we're gonna stuff it just with some scrap paper. And you will also need your masking tape, scissors, a marker just to draw where we're gonna cut it, and you can also use a glue gun. So I have my glue gun handy as well. You don't have to use it, but it does make sticking the ears together a little bit easier. Alright, so the very first step is making the armature. So what you're going to do is squeeze that down right at the top like that. And then you can either just cut it freehand if you're confident enough, but I recommend just doing that. Corner to corner. You can decide how deep you want it. Depends how pointy you want those little, I don't know if they're ears. And then we're just gonna grab our scissors and just cut those off right there. And that will be this little part right here on our sculpture. Like I said, if you want it deeper, you can go ahead and do it deeper. The next step is to use your glue gun. Mine isn't heated up properly yet. So basically what you can do is just stick right here to hold that together. It is optional, however, because you can just use some masking tape to do the same. So just cut or tear a few bits of masking tape just to hold that in place. Eventually we'll cover the entire armature with masking tape before we put on the Creative Paperclay. Alright, now we have that done. We're gonna grab some of our paper and just stuff up the top part like that. You just kind of have to eyeball it to see how much space you need for this. Like, I just need a little bit more in there. And then I will add this. You probably cut off this piece here. Get rid of some of that bulk. And then I'll just stick that down in there and push it out. Now I'm gonna use some tape to hold it in place. And I'm gonna cover the entire paper towel roll with masking tape before I put on the clay. I prefer to do this. Some people sculpt right on the cardboard, but what happens with clays that are like water-based clays is that the cardboard will absorb the moisture, and two things can happen. One of them, of course, is that the armature can lose its shape a bit while it's drying. And the second thing is that if it absorbs the moisture from the clay too fast, you can also end up with your sculpture, the clay cracking while it's drying. So it's just better to cover it, I think, with masking tape. So I'm going to completely cover this now. And then we'll move on to adding our clay. Don't forget to share the link to this video. As I said before, you are our greatest form of advertising, and we really appreciate you helping us get our name out there. And also remember, we're giving away that packet of Delight clay. We'll be announcing the winner towards the end. And you will send us your information in a private message. Don't put it in the chat on the live. And then we'll get in touch with you and send that clay off to you. And don't forget to check out our blog. It has lots of great tutorials on there. We have picture tutorials and we have video tutorials. There's a whole design team. It's not just me. And it's a fabulous set of ladies that do some awesome sculptures every month and awesome tutorials to share with you how to use our clay. Creative Paperclay is very easy on the hands, so if you have arthritis or any other issue with your hands, it's definitely a lot easier to use than you'd say polymer clay. And it's also very versatile and handy and can sculpt many different things. Not just cute little whimsical sculptures, it can sculpt a lot of things. You can do art dolls with it, you can do household items with it, you can use it for 3D like mixed media projects. It's a great clay. So there we have it. So it's fully covered now with the clay. With the tape. And I'm going to get out an open pack of clay I have in here. This is a great way to store paper clay. I have a whole Facebook Live video on storing your clay. You should check that out. It's in our video section on our page, Creative Paperclay modeling material. So this has been open for a while, but as you can see, it's still very soft. So what we're going to do now is start applying it to the armature. You could put it straight on the armature and we press it down nicely. It should stick quite fine. However, because I'd rather be safe than sorry, I like to use some white glue that's just been diluted a bit and apply that to my sculpture, to my armature. I wouldn't use a good brush on the glue. I'd save a brush for it. And I'm just going to go ahead and add it to one side, which I'm going to do first. So now I'm just going to take pieces and just gently push them on until the entire armature is fully covered. You could roll it out. I've tried that in the past, but like a thin sheet, like what you do with polymer clay. But what I found to happen is I get air pockets under there because I don't push it on as well, because it looks so nice and smooth and you forget that it's not, you know, fully pressed on. So I prefer to do it this way. So you're just going to continue pressing like that until the armature is fully covered with the clay. When we have this bit fully covered, we are going to add the eyes. Well, we'll smooth this out first and then we'll add the eyes and the little beak. So it's a good idea when you're working just to smooth as you go along. We can add a little water, just a dab of water with our finger later on, and just smooth the clay. But for now, this is fine. Of course, if your fingers get tired easily and you don't want to be pushing like how I'm pushing, you could use your clay tools. Any clay tools are fine, really, whether it's the one that you buy for the clay like the kiln clays or for polymer clays. Both of them will work. So I'm going to go ahead and add more glue to this side now and to the base. Let me get a bit more clay. Oh, you're welcome, Patty. I'm just seeing your comments. And Elena, we will wet the clay later on when we're ready to do the final smoothing. But one thing you have to be careful of is that you don't want to add too much water, because that will cause cracking in the clay when it's drying. So we will use a little water later on, just on our fingertip. We'll just dip our fingertips in the water and do a final smoothing. But the more you get done this way is the better off it is, because you don't want all that excess water on the clay, because you'll more likely have cracks. The cracks, however, can be fixed. Once again, if you look in our videos on this Facebook page, Creative Paperclay Modeling Material, you will see an entire video on fixing cracks. That definitely is a common question, how to fix cracks. Cracks can also be caused by your clay drying too fast. Alright, we're almost finished, which is great, and then I'll just show you how I smooth, and then we can add those eyes. Remember, if you have a minute, just to go ahead and share that link for us. It'd be greatly appreciated. It's a great clay for children as well, and we do have a wholesale rate on the website paperclay.com if you work with large groups. Alright, let's just get under here now. And then we will smooth. So one of the main things when you're adding the clay, if you notice how I'm pushing down, that's to avoid those air pockets. You really want a good seal between the clay and the armature. Alright, I think we're fully covered now. I'll just leave out that bit in case I come across a spot. So here I have some water, and all I'm doing is I'm going to dip my finger in and just gently rub over the clay. As you can see, it's getting very, very smooth. It's as simple as that. We don't want to overdo it. We don't want to add any more water. Just get it to that point. And then we'll do it again on this side. The more smoothing you do at this stage is the easier it will be later on. Let me just move this out of the way. You can sand the paper clay. However, it's just easier to get it done now than the work later. So you see how that has smoothed nicely with just a dip in the water. I'm also gently pushing down. Will help make sure that there are no air pockets under my clay. And then I'm just going to smooth out the base a bit. Not that it matters too much under there, as you will not be seeing it. But once I smooth that out as well, I just kind of gently push it down and rock it like that, because you want to make sure it has a flat surface so it will stand up properly. Alright, so we have our little armature fully covered. You can decide which is the front or the back, that's up to you. And the next stage is we're going to add these little eyes right here and the beak. So we need a little bit more clay, and for this part I'm going to use a little polymer clay rolling pin. A regular rolling pin would be fine, a glass bottle would be fine, anything that's smooth and round that you can roll out the clay with nicely. I'm also going to be using something to cut out the circles. I'm just going to use the lid of my paint right here. It's perfect size for those circles. You can use whatever you have, whether it's a clay cutter, a cookie cutter, or draw around something and use it as a kind of stencil. So I'm going to cut out 2 eyes. This is, to answer Elena's question, what kind of surface. This is a silicone. It's actually for cookies. It's from Amazon Basics. It's one of those silicone work sheets. You can use them for crafts, you can use them for baking. It's really handy because nothing sticks to it, so it's quite versatile, and you can get them in all different sizes. It's great for working with clay because of course my clay doesn't stick to it. So, and then what I'm gonna do is just cut out 2 eyes. If it doesn't cut out properly, depending what you're using, you may need a craft knife just to go around it. Craft knife, X-Acto knife, whatever it is you have. And then we're going to add them to our sculpture here. But before I do that, I want to just put on the beak, and then I think I will put the eyes over it, because that might just be a bit easier. So to make the beak, we just need a little ball of clay, and what we're going to do is just shape it like a beak. That might be a bit too much, so let's try that again. Yeah, that looks more like the size. And just go ahead and shape one end like the beak, and the other end we're gonna add to this right here. So we can add a little water because the clay is wet. We don't need to use glue. You can use glue if you want to be sure though. And we're gonna put our beak right here. I'm gonna use my clay tool and just gently blend those edges. If our clay was dry, because a lot of the times I let the sculpture dry, then I go back and add the details. If it was fully dry, you can add the wet clay to it. Just use a little glue, same diluted white glue that I used to stick the clay on the armature, and apply that first in the area where you're gonna add the fresh clay. You can also use a paintbrush for this. One of these flat brushes is great for that. Just a little water and you can just smooth it like that. Once again, I would keep a separate brush for this. Don't use one of your good brushes, and keep it just for the clay. It's great to smooth off actually where your finger cannot reach. In tiny little areas like under this beak for instance. And then we can just shape the beak however you want it. If you want it pointy, if you want it flat, that's up to you. And now we're gonna add the eyes. add the eyes. Once again, we're just gonna add a little water in that area. And then we're gonna just take up one eye and stick it on, and take up the other eye and stick it on. And we're gonna gently push those down. I don't want to blend around the edges with these, so I'm just pushing it down firmly. And as you can see, he's starting to come to life. The final thing we're going to do is those little eyeballs. So we're going to get 2 eyeballs. Let's just roll those out, see if we can get the same size. I think those are about the same size, and we're just going to roll them like that till they're nice and smooth. And then, as we did with the eyes, we're just going to add a little water and put those eyeballs on there. If you don't want to press down too much because you don't want to flatten them, then what you can do is just add a little glue like that as well. And that will ensure that they stay on there. Because sometimes when you press too much, it's going to flatten it out a bit, and you want it to remain round. You see, because it's a paper clay, anything you want to stick, you can use regular white PVA glue for it. Okay, so there you have it. We've finished our sculpture. You can set him aside to dry overnight. I put mine under a fan because I live in Jamaica and it's very humid here, so it'll sit there for days sometimes and not dry, even though it's very hot. So I'd recommend, if you live in a humid climate, to put him under a fan, and he should dry overnight or less time. It just depends where you live. But he's really, really cute. Alright, so let me just put away this clay. It's always great to put away your clay when you've finished working with it. Don't forget it out because it will dry out. So let me just put that aside and get what I need next. So I have one that's dry already, so you don't have to wait around for me to dry it. And we're going to work on this guy now. Definitely, Patty says she thinks we could make a steampunk. Oh, that would actually be really cute with some nice little wire glasses or goggles, or it'd be really, really cute. Alright, so for this section, we have our paints. I am using these great paints from Folk Art, Flat Acrylics. These are watercolor acrylic paints. So they blend like watercolor, or they have the appearance of watercolor, as you can see from this sculpture. But then they dry like acrylic, so it's fabulous, really. So I have these colors. I use this one for the eyes, and these I painted the body with. And I have also some black acrylic paint, also from Blade Crafts, and some sparkly glitter paint. To do the little white trim, I have a Liquitex marker. You can use a Posca marker, whatever you have, or a Uniball gel pen. That's what all of this little white trim is right here. That, of course, is optional. That's up to you. So I am going to move those ones out of the way for now and get started on painting this little guy. I am not going to be adding any gesso to this piece. Normally I would add gesso, but I wanted it to have that nice soft watercolor effect, so I painted directly onto the Creative Paperclay. So let me just get some of this paint out. Let's give it a good shake. I'm just going to put some on my craft mat right here. Okay, great. I'll just keep them turned up in case you want to see the names of them again. So this is ultramarine and this is pink. Alright, so you just paint, add a little water, and just paint as you would. You can play with the colors, it's up to you. You don't have to use these colors, of course. But as you can see how well they blend together, and that nice soft watercolor effect that you get from them. I love it. I think it's amazing. But then when it dries like an acrylic, so it will be it won't wash off like a watercolor would. So we just keep adding water as we would with watercolor, and just go ahead and play with the paint until your entire sculpture is covered, and then we will move on to the eyes. I'm not really being too careful because I'll go around the eyes with some acrylic first before I add the color. Because I wanted the eyes to stand out a bit more, so. How long does the clay take to dry? For me, it dries overnight. You can also bake it in a low oven. I'd say no more than like, it's a 200 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. And probably, I usually do it like 20 minutes at 200, and then I turn over the sculpture and do another 20 minutes on the other side. And that usually dries it thoroughly for me. That's for the Creative Paperclay. I do not recommend putting the Delight clay in the oven at all. I found that out the hard way, where it pretty much just like bubbled and opened up. And so the Creative Paperclay can go in the oven, but not the Delight clay. So you can just keep playing with it until you're happy how it looks. Make sure you get all those little nooks and crannies under there. Those little hidey holes. And then you can paint the bottom if you like, that's up to you. So let me just get the spot here at the top. I'm going to use my heat gun to dry it, because I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Oh, we have a winner. Laura Zemlinska. Is that Quaglia? I hope I pronounced that correctly. She is the winner of the pack of Delight clay. Just make sure those eyes are dry, because that's where I'm going to add more paint. Okay, great. Next, I'm just going to go around the eyes with some, this is vintage white. Also from Plaid Crafts. I love their paints. I'll have to go over it again just to cover those areas. Of course, you could just be more careful and avoid this, but I never am, so. give that a quick dry again. If you have any ideas for clay talk that you would like to see me do on any demonstrations, or any questions you might have that I can do a show on, I'll be happily to see if I can facilitate you. You can just leave a comment for us below. As I said before, if you look under videos on this Facebook page, Creative Paperclay Modeling Material, you will find lots of previous episodes of Clay Talk if you haven't watched them yet. We've been, I think August makes a year we've been doing Clay Talk. So there are quite a few videos there. So if there's something you'd like to see me do a show on, I mean, just let us know and we'll try our best to accommodate you. Okay, I think that's covered enough now. And we're almost finished. While that's drying some, actually, we're going to use this fire coral paint. Once again, it's from Plaid Crafts, and this is an acrylic paint. So I'm just rinse out my brush and pick up some of that paint, and then we go ahead and just paint it. When we're finished this, we will paint the eyeballs black and the beak black, both with an acrylic paint, and then it's just decorating. You don't have to decorate any further, of course, if you don't like to. I like to make everything super whimsical. It's just my style. So you'll find that I decorate everything if you look on my sculptures. Our next show is July 2nd. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. I might do another little sculpture like this using the toilet roll armature that you don't really have to go out and buy much for. Try utilize what we have at home. Alright, so I'm just getting on top of here because that had no paint, and any other areas. Alright, let's try that again. We're almost finished now. As you can see, it's coming along. After we've painted, done the black, which is also an apple barrel acrylic from Plaid Craft, we're going to be using this glitter paint that they have. It's called Glitterific, and it's a nice sparkly paint, very iridescent and picks up different colors. That's what I used when I was doing the eyes. That's what that shimmer is on those eyes. So let me quickly paint that beak and the eyes, and then we can get to the sparkly part. Let's get that beak first. We have to go underneath, so you want to be careful there. If you have a small brush, it's probably a good idea to switch to it. And then we'll do on top. And then we'll just do those little eyes. And he is starting to look so cute. There we go. If you get a little on the pink area, just use a damp brush and just gently rub it like that. It will come off as long as it's not dry. And just wipe it and do it again. See? All gone. Alright, let's dry that. And then we'll move on to our glitter paint. This one is very thick, so it's hard to come out. I will probably end up just scooping it out. Let me just grab a fudge stick. There we go. I'm just scoop some out. And once again, this actually has glue in it. It's a glitter paint, so don't use your perfect brush for it. You can maybe have a brush dedicated for glue, or use the one that you used on the clay. And all I did here was I just scooped up some and went around the eyes like that. How much or how little you want to add is up to you. It just gives them a nice sparkle. If you had one of those glitter markers, it would probably give you the same effect. Or maybe mica powder would also give you a nice metallic effect right here. I like this though, because as I said, I like to keep it very whimsical. Alright, that's good enough. And we dry them again. And now it's just to add little details if you like. You don't have to. Those are probably going to take a bit longer to dry. I'm just going to heat them and leave them for a minute while I do the trim. So all I did here was I just used my Uniball pen just to go ahead and do little trims here, and little trims here, and little trims here. Patty, I painted it white because I got some of the paint on it, and I wanted the paint to be even when I put on the fire coral. Anytime you want, it's a good idea when you get paint on something. Otherwise, like some areas would have been darker, like the blue under this would have looked darker. So it's best like to just prime it. So I just used this paint. Gesso could have been fine as well, or any white acrylic. So now I'm just going to go ahead and add my trim. You just do that all the way around. Sometimes these pens give a little bit of trouble when it's not just on plain paper. So you just have to kind of work with it. Or like I said, if you have a Posca marker, that's also fine. You can do the wings in several ways. You can either do what I did before, or you can just draw them in like that. That's up to you. Or You can do them nice and curly like what I did there. That really is just, it depends on what you want. And then on the back, I just did those little hearts. So once again, I was just doodling with my white pen, like that, and filling them in. For the little lines on the eyes, I used my paint marker. It's from Liquitex. And as you can see, all I did was go around the eyes like this. My eyes aren't fully dry though, so I'm just pressing down gently, but I want to show you guys, I don't want to have to, you know, wait for the glue to dry. The glitter paint, which is, you know, the base feels like glue, so just go around the eyes like this, and that's it. And then to get the sheen, if you can see the difference, I used spray acrylic gloss. It was also from Clad Crafts. I do have a lot of their stuff. It's my favorite stuff to work with, Creative Paperclay, and that will give you the lovely sheen here. If you prefer matte, then spray it with matte. It depends on what you like. So that is it. I do hope that you enjoyed this demonstration, and look out again next month for our live demo. It's the first Thursday of every month, so look out for that. It's 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific time. So I think I have that right. So thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to buy your Creative Paperclay. It comes in a 16 ounce and it comes in a small pack, 8 ounce. For this project you would only need the 8 ounce pack, but I'm sure you could find other great things to make with your paperclay. And these are the paints that I use from Clad Crafts. They're folk art watercolor acrylic paints. This one is pink and this one is ultramarine. So thank you so much again for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your evening and have a great weekend. And I hope to see you guys again next month. So that's it. So I'll talk to you then, and goodbye. You're welcome, Elena. Thank you, and I'll see you next month.